His face is frozen in a look of sheer horror, as if he had just seen the scariest thing he'd ever seen in his life, and at that second died. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us in our Percentile Vice. We're playing Call of Cthulhu. Our investigators, if you've been keeping up with us, Alice Green and Jackson Morris, just recently finished an investigation at Blackwater Creek, and they'll be moving on to their next adventure, and we'll be tackling the scenario Crimson Letters, which is one of the scenarios provided in the Keeper's Rulebook for Call of Cthulhu. Great thing about Call of Cthulhu and Chaosium products, if you order off of their website, you get the hardcover book and all the PDF files to go with it. That's really handy. So buy your stuff from Chaosium. If you get the Keeper's Rulebook, you're going to find this scenario in there. You can follow along with this. Good luck with that. So, I'm Steve. I'm going to be the Keeper of Arcane Lore, and I am joined by...
I'm Emily. I'll be playing Alice Green, the Antiquarian, and John?
I'm John, playing Jackson Morris, the Cowboy Bootlegger.
Okay, so Alice Green and Jackson Morris, you are both currently sitting in the front parlor of Alice Green's townhouse, which sits in a pretty nice section of town just out off of the Miskatonic University campus. You are sitting there. It's a nice day. The sun is shining. It's early October. The weather is cool, but not cold just yet. Feels pretty good outside. Been a couple of weeks since your adventures in Blackwater Creek. Immediately following that, within a couple of days, Rick Stevens, private investigator, he came by to check on you. He had seen you the very first day and could tell by the looks of you that you had been through the ringer on what he thought was a relatively easy assignment that he had given to Alice Green, and got to meet Jackson Morris for the first time. Here's what he relayed to you at that time. In the coming days, 5 dead bodies were found in and around the Blackwater Creek area, and they were the bodies of Sheriff Dick Sprouston and 4 of his followers.
Did the water recede before it had eaten them all the way?
The creek is now running dry again, and all they found of Sheriff Sprouston was the top half of his body and a shattered, blown head. The lower portion of his body was not found. In fact, only 3 of his followers' bodies were found. One is just reported as missing.
Maybe I should have thrown the top half in to get rid of that evidence.
But Malcolm Jarvie and his wife, now that Sheriff Sprouston was out of the picture, who they never quite trusted, had sent word to higher officials, and a group of state police had come to Blackwater Creek to investigate. They have determined that the bodies they found were involved in a gunfight and had died from that. There were reports of a large explosion there in the vicinity. Checking out the rest of Blackwater Creek, they found a another body, and that was later identified as the very diseased remains of Brendan Carmody. And his brother had been subsequently arrested for bootlegging operations. And while that was going on, the person of Professor Rhodes was found in the basement of the Carmody house, utterly and stark raving mad. He has been transported back to Arkham and is currently residing in Arkham Sanatorium. Virtually nonverbal, blubbering idiot. So Rick Stevens imparts to you that, hey, we found Rhodes. That was our job. Everything's good. You guys did great. Chill for a little while. So it's been about 2 weeks. And you're sitting there in the parlor. So, Jackson, what have you been doing?
Been hanging out with her and helping her get back to health. Even through her disdain for my job, which I would have thought she would have dropped after she shot somebody.
So have you been staying there at Alice Green's house, or have you
Had
done some
stuff.
digs here? Okay.
Scandal.
It is a little bit scandalous, but perhaps you can explain to us how you're squaring that off with the neighbors. What have you been doing for the last 2 weeks?
Well, I assume I haven't seen my neighbors. I imagine I haven't really left the house. So the worried looks of my neighbors have yet to affect me because I've yet to see them. I'd imagine I come from a wealthy family. I'm wealthy on my own. That I would have had like in-home psychiatric care. A psychiatrist or psychologist coming to visit me instead of me having to go, to a sanatorium or things like that. And just kind of working through my newfound phobia of all forms of water. Well, not all forms, but specifically bathing, stagnant water. And having Jackson around's been nice because, he's shown me he can take care of himself. He can take care of me. He can defend us. And so in, the nights when you wake up in the cold sweat and you're terrified, it's nice that, he's over in the next room keeping you safe. So I'm sure he had many nights of me coming through and making him get up and check the house and check the doors and things like that. And I imagine that we spent, just a lot of time trying to not talk about it, trying to just exist outside of Blackwater Creek and get away from all the horrible stuff, because he didn't come out of there scotch-free either. He had some serious things to think through, but just not quite the visceral reaction that I had.
You both were injured and have had the opportunity to kind of heal up from the cuts and scrapes and bruises that you received. Your indefinite insanity has ended through self-care and some help from Jackson Morris and the at first near daily visits from a physician, a psychiatrist to help you work through those things. You have regained your sanity. However, you do have the lingering phobia. It's a fear of bathing and washing it. And the way it manifests to you is when you see a tub of water or a basin of water, your eyes play tricks on you. You're certain, did I just see a little silver fleck in there? We're calling back to
Right.
the flesh devouring flecks that were in the water at Blackwater Creek. And so you're always a little afraid of it. Now that you're past your indefinite insanity period, you're able to kind of control that. So like when you're at your house and you're drawing a bath and you know that you've done this water, you might get that sensation like, I better check for the flecks. You look and you don't have any hallucinations or anything. And you just have to calm yourself down. There's nothing wrong with this water. And you're able to do that. You are able to overcome that phobia in those situations. Mechanically speaking, whenever you find yourself in a bout of madness, that phobia is coming on full, and your ability to control those effects on you will be gone.
Right.
Also, mechanically, if you find yourself in a situation where that phobia is coming into play, even if you are not insane, indefinite or temporary, your skill checks, when making skill checks in a situation where that phobia is in play, are going to be made with penalty dice.
Nice. Fun stuff.
Yep. So you both are healed up. You've been able to calm yourself, recover from the mental and psychological effects on yourself. What's the relationship like between Jackson and Miss Green now? You guys have been through some serious stuff together, and you've spent the last 2 weeks kind of buddy care here, taking care of each other. So
what is the relationship, Jackson? I want to.
Well, we haven't bing bonged yet because you haven't been in your right mind.
Well, that's very gentlemanlike of you. The technical term of bing bong.
it's bing bong.
Bing bong. Well, tell me where Jackson's at.
He's in your house.
Bruh. I think if he's not going to answer appropriately, I think Alice has some, very, very fond of him. She's, not necessarily always attracted to some of the things, like he smokes a pipe and, she knows he's a bootlegger, but I think she's beginning to kind of get over that, but she will still make little digs at him for it. But she's fond of him and she does consider him, a close friend. He's been sleeping on her couch, for 2 weeks now. And she doesn't really have many friends in the city. She's, kind of all about her work. So it's nice for her to have somebody that she can openly talk with. And, where it goes from there, she's not sure, but she's very fond of him.
He was definitely surprised, and I think you earned a lot of respect with the way you handled yourself and the situations you were in, even though
Went a little off kilter.
It went a little off kilter, but he's still, it's not that he's never been around a strong woman before, and you're definitely not the strongest woman he's ever seen, but you're very smart, and he does see a lot of potential in you to be more than you are now.
So that's the hot take, ladies. If you learn how to shoot a rifle, cowboys will be attracted to you. Hot take.
So you both came in the Daily Post one day, $50 a piece from Rick Stevens, which is him sharing with you the fee he received from Miskatonic University for finding out what the deal was with Professor Rhodes. And it came a few days after things. So 2 weeks later, you're rusted up, you're healed up, and you know that in about 15 or 20 minutes, Rick Stevens is coming by. He called you the day before, maybe that morning, and said, "Hey, we need to come by and talk to you." So, anything you guys would like to do or talk about before Rick Stevens gets here?
No, I think it's just going to be, making a, serving tray of tea and things like that and getting ready for guests, as she would probably do.
Okay. So you make the tea, you get it set out. While it wasn't particularly harrowing, pouring the water into the tea kettle, and the fact that it was for Rick Stevens flashes your mind back to some of the things that happened at Blackwater Creek, particularly the mother in the cave and those horrors, you're able to shake it off about the time that the water's finished pouring. You go set it outside, and there is a knock at the door.
Okay. I'll approach the door and look through. And is it Rick? And I'll open the door. Well, prompt as ever. Come in.
Hey, thanks, kid.
Come have a seat in the parlor. Jackson's inside. I'll grab the tea.
Great. Appreciate it. How are you and Jackson holding it up?
No, doing well. Making it. We're making it day by day. Yep. So, what did you want to see us about?
Well, so Jackson, Alice, look, you probably don't feel like it, but you did a great job up there in Blackwater. We would have never found roads, even the condition he was in, had you guys not got to the bottom of what was going on up there. So here's a good point to ask. How much and what did you tell Rick about your adventures?
Well, I don't know about Jackson, but I would assume that if Rick came and saw me on my first day back, I don't think I'd have been able to hold back or lie about anything. I think it would have probably not made a whole lot of sense. It would have been a lot of ramblings, but he'd have probably heard everything. And whether or not he believed it, given the current state, is, his prerogative. But I don't think I would have withheld even the weirdest things of, people being stretched and their organs all over the walls and things.
Right, so you guys were up front with him. You just
verbal vomit. Yeah.
blasted it all out there, probably in a running stream of consciousness without a breath in between, no periods, no commas, just straight words. So, look, I know some of that was a little rough on you and you kid, but I got to tell you, I still believe you do great work. Had you not followed all the little clues that were out there, just asked around a little bit and found no roads, you could have just come back, but you took care of it. And that's something you got going for you. And Jackson, I know we just met, but from everything I've heard, you're a great man to have around when things get tough. So, look, Alice, the best way to go about a skinned knee when you fall off a bike is get right back up on that bike. So, I guess that's not too subtle a way of telling you we got something else.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This one's simple. It's right here in town. Not going to have crazy country folk and weird caves and stuff like that. One of the professors over at, he's more of an administrator over at Miskatonic University. You probably remember him from your time there, Dean Bryce Fallon.
Yeah, of course.
He's contacted me. There's a bit of a situation that they've got over there, and he needs it handled delicately. So, what I was hoping is that you and Jackson could go over there, get the lowdown from Bryce Fallon. I got 3 cases that I'm juggling right now, so really I'm just asking you to get the lay of the land, and you call me at any time. My receptionist can always get a hold of me. He has no reception,
right?
But he doesn't want to admit that in front of
imaginary refreshment.
Right. So if you call his office and he's not there, it's just ring. But you do have his home number and his office number. So the university was appreciative of our efforts on the last case as well. So we were the first ones they thought of. So what do you think? Go talk to Dean Fallon and see what's up. It's got something to do with some missing documents, and that's about all he gave me over the phone. But it's really important for the university to recover some things before the world finds out. That's why we got to use some discretion here, kid.
Oh, well, Jackson, are you up for it?
I'm always up for anything, ma'am.
Yeah, I guess for you, Rick, I think we could, since it's here in town and you know, I think we could take care of that for you. I was wondering, did you ever go get your car?
Well, so I did make a trip up there. The car's shot. They apparently were the Jarvies, I think, who stayed with them for a while. They had the car. They were they'd sent off for parts. They put a part on, so they scrapped out. I think it's just going to become a lawn ornament for the Jarvies. But hey, we live in a city. Never really need a car anyway. It's just for looks, just for show, which you find particularly amusing because it was a jalopy.
Right. Well, I am sorry about your car. Well, yeah, we can go see Dean Fallon and find out what's going on. Try to take care of it for you.
And so, as Rick lets you know that as for the last time, he will give you a fair cut of the fee that is involved here. And he takes his leave of you, and as you look out the front window to the bright, sunny October day, you see him walk to a car waiting on the street. Pretty nice car. And there's a young woman, well dressed, pretty good looking, sitting in the driver's seat, just waiting for him to get in. He opens the door, closes it, and drives off.
Well, how about that? Well, I guess we should head on over to meet Dean Fallon. I've known him for some time now, so I can take us up to his office. Shouldn't be any problem. I've been up there several times. If you're ready to go.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you take a pretty short walk. Basically, if you cross your street, you step into university campus. And it's a short walk to the administrative building where Dean Fallon is in. You recall him as a senior administrator. He's by no means president of the college. He's probably just the dean of one of the schools in the college, but probably a gentleman in his early to mid 50s, conservatively dressed, and always seemed an able manager and administrator. Kind but no nonsense kind of guy. So you arrive at his office.
So I will knock on the door and wait.
Yes, come in.
Open the door. Dean Fallon, Alice Green. I don't know if you remember me.
Recent alumni, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Not too long ago. What was it? Archaeology, I believe.
Yes, you're correct.
I've heard that. I was just looking at some of the alumni office's recent reports. They're working at the Arkham Museum now.
Yes, sir.
What section?
So I work in the antiquities appraisal area.
All right, good show.
Yes, thank you.
Archaeology degree from Arkham, from the Miskatonic University, will get you places in this world.
Yes, it did. And
what may I do for you, Miss Green?
Well, actually, we were sent over here by Rick Stevens.
Yeah, so as this conversation is happening while you're walking in the door, and about the time you say we, Jackson walks in the door, so he now notices that there's a we instead of a you. So he stands up. He would have stood up anyway because he entered his office. But, it's quite. He reaches out his hand to shake Jackson's hand.
Howdy. Shake his hand.
This is Jackson Morris, a friend of mine.
Mr. Morris, good to meet you. I'm Bryce Fallon, Dean Bryce Fallon. You said that private investigator sent you over there. Stevens, I believe his name is.
Yeah, yes, he's a close friend of mine, and I sometimes help him out with cases that require more delicate touch.
Yes, the president of the university recommended that I give him a call, that he's done some work for the university before and can be trusted to show discretion in delicate matters.
Yes, and given that I've attended here and I'm, known by several members of the faculty, he thought I would be a good liaison for him in his absence.
Well, Ms. Green, I can tell you my comfort level has gone up considerably, because I know, being an old Miski yourself, that you want to ensure the continued prosperity and well-renowned of Miskatonic University, and I can trust that you would never do or say anything that would shed an ill light upon
100%.
the
I'm
university.
very much looking forward to the alumni banquet in the spring. I already, sent in my reservation and everything. I'm very excited about that. The university is very important to me.
So I'm certain to see you there. Please, Mr. Morris, Miss Green, have a seat. And he walks behind you and closes the door to his office, and then walks back around his desk, reaches into a drawer and pulls out a little file folder and maybe a little accompanying envelope. Some time ago, I don't know, do I start with the most recent events and then backstory from there for you? That's probably the way to go. Are you familiar with Professor Charles Leiter? He's up and coming young professor in colonial history. Perhaps you had a chance to run across him. He's only been here for a few years. Maybe your paths didn't cross. I'm not sure.
I don't think I've met him, but I believe I've seen his name in some of the publications that I've come across.
Well, most likely you've seen his name in the society pages of the Arkham Advertiser. He's quite the socialite and charmer. But, I'm sad to say, young Professor Leiter is no longer with us.
Why? What happened?
Well, yesterday he was discovered dead in his office. His research assistant, Amelia Court, had gone to do some work. Found the office locked and asked the janitor to permit her entrance. It's well known in the buildings that Miss Court was his research assistant, so there was no trouble for the janitor to open the door. She went in and found his body. Now, there have been deaths on campus before. The unfortunate student suicides or some of the more unexplained events, and then just your normal run-of-the-mill
Yes.
things. But here's why this one is of particular interest. Some time ago, the university came into possession of an important batch of documents. The slightly reclusive but extremely wealthy and old money Joshua Hobhouse died back in February. This will all start to make sense. Just allow me to go through.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hobhouse had an amazing collection of colonial and Revolutionary War artifacts, documents, papers. It was an enviable collection.
Okay.
Finding an heir for Mr. Hobhouse took some time, as direct descendants had passed, but by law, his estate passed to the Cobb family out of Providence. Perhaps you've heard of them.
Yes.
Quite wealthy and known. Their relation to Hobhouse was only through marriage, but because of the lack of direct descendants, they inherited his estate and his fine collection. They promptly inventoried the collection and wished to find out its value. So in subsequent months, they, probably around April, the time frame, they contacted us here at the university, looking for a trusted and well-known source who could assess the documents and letters, artifacts, whatnot, to give them a value. Particularly important to the university because the promise for that assessment was that a portion of that fine collection would be gifted to the university, which would be quite prestigious for us to have some of the Revolutionary War and colonial documents and letters as part of our fine collection.
Yes.
Well, Professor Leiter, the poor deceased Professor Leiter, was one of a couple of professors who lobbied for the opportunity to lead up the assessment and evaluation of the Hobhouse collection. Given his background in colonial history, and in no small part to his charming manner, the Board of Governors decided to entrust the assessment of those documents to him. And Miss Court, that I previously mentioned to you, is a graduate student. She was assigned to help him. Very important and very rigorous about cataloging and assessing every piece of it, and she's quite good at that. Well, upon discovering the good Professor Leiter dead, we immediately sought to ensure that the Hobhouse collection was secured. In going through his office and his cottage, we have recovered most of it.
Most of it?
Most of it. There's a glaring omission. Understand that the Cobb family had inventoried all of this before, and then Leiter and Court's work was to catalog and assess everything. So there's two documents that we could cross-reference to the collection. And missing from the collection is a set of documents, bound sheafs of paper known as the witch trial papers.
Okay.
I'm sure you're aware, but Mr. Morris, perhaps you're not, like the famous witch trials, slightly to the south of here in Salem, Arkham had its own interesting run-in with the fervor at the time. In the 1690s, Arkham had their own witch trials, and these documents purported to be letters and evidence related to that witch trial. Probably the most valuable piece of the collection.
Okay.
And that is what's missing. So what we need to do is get our hands back upon these papers and return them to the collection. Preferably before the media or society in general, and definitely before the Cobb family discovers that Miskatonic University has let such an important set of papers become lost.
Definitely. So tell me this, is there any indication of how Professor Leiter died?
Right, so we have, of course, teaching hospital here on the campus, and Dr. John Wheatcroft, who is a part-time professor here for us. He has taken control of the body, and being that he is a retired coroner, or an assistant coroner from Boston, he has taken body preliminary indications and the death certificate that will be released when we decide to release it indicate that it was massive and sudden heart failure was the cause of death.
Didn't you say that Professor Leiter was rather young?
Yes, quite. Not much older than you.
Okay.
We have control of the body. After the body was discovered, of course, the authorities were alerted, and the Arkham police came and attempted to take possession of the body and secure the scene. But we were able to convince them that we had the expertise in Dr. Wheatcroft to perform the autopsy. So right now, everything is still very much under our control, and we'd like to keep it that way. Should the police insist on taking over the investigation from the university or taking control of the body, then the chances of this whole messy affair getting out to everybody becomes much higher and puts the university at risk. I'm sure that I can rely upon your discretion and sense of urgency in this matter. At least that is what we were assured by Mr. Stevens.
We certainly will be as discreet and quick as we can. Do you know where we can find Miss Court, his assistant?
She's a student here on campus. I don't know exactly whether she's living in student housing or private housing, but all of the faculty has been instructed to cooperate with you in this investigation. It'll take me, I don't know, maybe the afternoon to get actual names to them that, Ms. Green and Mr. Morris are to be given deference in any part of this investigation that they wish. What I do have for you here is these are the keys to Professor Leiter's office, and these are the keys to his cottage. But he pauses for a second. I indicated that the death certificate would indicate massive and sudden heart failure. And while that is true, there's a little more to it than just that, perhaps. Before you should go to the medical hospital, you go to the basement and find Dr. Wheatcroft and ask him about the full results of his autopsy. You could also go to the scene, his office, where he was found dead. But I suspect you might look upon the office with different eyes if you first gather all the information you can about the body and the death itself.
Okay, that sounds like some great advice. Or we'll definitely we'll do that. We'll head over there now and see if we can't take a moment to look at the body.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. So we'll just excuse ourselves out of the office.
Okay. So you know that the hospital is part of the university campus, but you got a bit of a walk across the campus to get to it. So,
Jackson, what do you make of that?
I don't know what to make of it. I guess we need to go to the hospital.
I'm concerned. I mean, he's talking about sudden heart failure in a man of his mid-50s or mid-25s, and he's making it sound like it's something more than that. But why not just tell us? That makes me very concerned of what we're going to walk into this hospital. But I guess there's no way to find out but to go. So we'll just walk on to the teaching hospital.
Okay, you walk in the front door of the hospital, and it is 1920s sanitary. Dark white walls, starched white hats worn by nurses wearing starched white skirts and squeaky white shoes.
Nurse ratchets.
Yes, may I help you?
Hi, yes, we are looking for a Dr. Wheatcroft.
Dr. Wheatcroft is busy with his work at this moment. Do you have an appointment with him?
No, Dean Fallon sent us over to speak with him personally.
One moment, please.
Thank
you. She picks up the phone. Doesn't dial any numbers, but reaches over and grabs a cord with a little thing, plugs it into another one. Yes, Dr. Wheatcroft, we have visitors for you at the main lobby, sent by Dean Fallon. You hear some mumbled voices from her earpiece, but you can't make out what they are. And she puts the phone down and says, please have a seat. Dr. Wheatcroft will be with you shortly.
Thank you. We'll go have our seat in the waiting room.
And within a couple minutes, the door to the stairwell opens up, and out walks an elderly gentleman, late 60s, maybe even into his 70s. More skin than flesh. Like he had maybe recently lost a lot of weight. Wrinkly, saggy, very, very aged. But, there's still a light behind his eyes. And, I'm Professor Wheatcroft. Dr. John Professor Wheatcroft. How may I be of assistance to you?
Yes, my name is Alice Green. This is Jackson Morris. We were sent here by Dean Fallon to speak to you about Professor Leiter.
Follow me. And he heads to the stairs. You go down the stairway, and you come out on the basement. Stark white hallway, uncovered light bulbs, blast light into this place, and he walks as briskly as a nearly 70-year-old man can into an examination room. You come in. It's a little office area, right? There's a little desk, and then there's a wall with glass, and behind the glass you can see a body laying on a table, draped with a sheet. Yes, what did you say your names were again? I will have to make a note of this.
Alice Green.
Miss Green, and just
Jackson Morris.
Jackson Morris. And what authority are you asking about Professor Leiter?
Dean Fallon sent us. We're investigating the...
Oh, Bryce. You said we'd get right on this. Okay, well, how can I help you?
Dean Fallon suggested we come take a look at the body. He said the death certificate would indicate massive heart failure. However, that would not necessarily be the case. And he said that you would be better able to explain that to us.
Poor choice of words on the part of Bryce to suggest that what I've written on the death certificate is not necessarily the case. It is absolutely 100% the case that sudden and massive heart attack was the cause of his death. There were attenuating circumstances as well, but there's only so much room.
Certainly.
Good death certificate, so.
Definitely. So what were the extenuating circumstances around the massive heart failure?
He pulls out his nose. He starts with, I conducted an autopsy at 03:30 on the morning last. The body presented, and he starts going into this really
Dry.
dull spiel. And then he looks up and he sees your eyes just glazed over. He says, oh, Kyle, come with me. He goes into the other room, opens up the door, and you guys walk in. The temperature in this room is at least 10 degrees colder than the outside room. He's like, yeah, so, well, he goes over to a basin sink and starts to wash his hands and dries them off. Well, you better wash it if you're going to do this in a manner which you could understand. He invites both of you to wash your hands in the sink.
I had to wash my hands.
I am going to look at the doctor and say, apologies, I would rather not. I'll just observe if that's quite all right with you.
Well, so stand back. Don't get too close to the table. Some germs on hands can become airborne. It's really not protocol, but wash your hands. Yeah. He moves over to the table. And he pulls back the sheet. And the body of Professor Charles Leiter is laying there. His face is frozen in a look of sheer horror, as if he had just seen the scariest thing he'd ever seen in his life, and at that second died. And his face stuck at that, with his eyes wide open, his mouth agape, and fear just etched all over his face, just suddenly and instantaneously carved in stone forevermore on his face. And in a very clinical way, then the doctor starts, he's now put on gloves and he's got like a little baton pointer kind of thing. And he says, yeah, so notice here the eyes. And as you get past the overall look of horror on this body's face and start concentrating on details instead of the overall pictures, he says the eyes, you look at the eyes, and the eyes are devoid of any color. This milky grayish white.
No irises, no pupils.
Nothing.
Ooh.
Just milky grayish white. However, the pupils are there, right? It's not like the eyes are rolled back in his head. The eyes are looking forward, but there is no color to his irises. And it is just kind of thinned over with this milky whiteness.
Could I make I don't have any in the natural world. So with my survival wilderness, give me an inkling as to whether or not these look more like fish eyes than human eyes.
Like they're all.
Oddly specific. Failure.
Could I push?
You can push the roll. The negative result of a failed push roll in this case would be pretty benign. A little extra time. Maybe the doctor notices that you're looking very strangely at the eyes, or maybe wondering why, as you're staring at the eyes, you're making like little fish movements with your mouth.
Hey, hard success.
So you've seen one, these don't look like fish eyeballs. You have seen dead animals or dead fish where as time passes from the time they were killed or died, that sometimes there's the milkiness that happens to the eyes. This looks nothing like this. Also, you've been informed that this guy was just found dead the previous morning. So you don't believe that much. So you really don't have an explanation.
Okay. I don't get to check on a push roll, right?
Basically, we figured out if it's not just a straight roll, you don't get to check it.
Push rolls never get a tick mark on your skill. Rolls that use
bonus or penalty?
Luck never get it. Bonus or penalty, if you have bonus dice and get it, by the rules figured out in the last session, you're not supposed to tick the mark. But I have a little bit of a problem with that, and I'm thinking about doing homebrew rule here. A bonus dice just means that circumstances are such that you've got some advantage in making this thing. Those circumstances could be the world around you, what somebody else is doing to help you, or because you came up with an ingenious way of applying that particular skill.
Right.
And none of those seem like good reasons not to give you the success mark. So
maybe it's a case by case thing. Like if it's something where you were kind of giving somebody a dice, maybe don't give it to them then.
But the whole point is you've done something and then therefore could learn from it and become better at it. So even if somebody else was like Alice decided to help you with a lock picking and said, "Oh, we'll try tweaking it, turning it right there."
You would still learn from that.
There's potential that you learn from that. Now, if you failed it and said, "I'm going to spend 20 luck points," you didn't really learn anything from that. You acted God, fortuitous circumstance.
Right.
Like, boom. You're like, I don't know why that damn thing opened. So I get it in that situation. So I think until you guys convince me I've made the wrong decision by way overusing it, I'm going to say if you use a bonus dice, then you still get to tick.
Sounds good.
For right now, push rolls do not get to tick the mark, contingent on two things. One, I want to go back and check because I went and checked about bonus dice, but I'm not sure about push. I know the rule for luck. I believe it is no for push rolls. And the other thing contingent on is would the same reasoning that I just used for bonus die apply to push rolls? I don't think so, because basically you're taking a second shot at it, right? And I don't think you should get too much reward out of hey, let's ignore that bad roll and try again.
I think push roll is the equivalent of when you got like a bolt stuck on a car and you fuss with it for like 10 minutes and you walk away and you come back and it magically fixes itself.
And you have no idea why.
Nothing happened. You didn't do anything different. You just stepped away and came back and gave it a second shot.
So, hey, we're working through learning this game. So if you're watching us and it's because you want to know what this game is about, then these discussions are probably pretty beneficial to you. And if you know a whole bunch about Call of Cthulhu, you're probably sitting there screaming at me through the screen right now that I'm doing this all wrong. Leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. I was trying to get better. Thanks. So.
Milky eyes that don't look like fish.
Yeah. And then he starts to point down other parts of the body and maybe even gets a little uncomfortable for you because the body is nude. But he has brought the sheet down just below the waist, so everything is well. But he starts pointing out things like discoloration in the skin that seem to indicate that there was a severe and quick, almost instantaneous convulsing seizure of the whole body at one time. And that probably played into the heart attack. And he's explaining it. And part of it sounds like he's trying to give you all the information about what happened to this body, but also justify and protect himself about why it was listed as sudden and massive heart attack, heart failure.
Right.
So the convulsion of all the muscles of the body would have contributed to and caused the heart attack. So it is absolutely proper to say that the cause of death was the heart attack. Well, we're not quite sure of is what caused the heart attack. Right?
Yes.
And then you start, pointing out those other issues. He talks about there are parts within the body, like the internal organs, that have just almost turned to mush. Like the damage to the internal organs could have been a result of the horrific seizure that happened. But when you couple that with the fact that all the gut flora seems to have been, and he notices in our bodies, we have certain bacteria and organisms that live in our gut that actually help us to digest food and blah, 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 blah. And all of that is dead in its body, which is strange because you expect it lives on for a while. In fact, it is that kind of bacteria and organisms that live within our body that speed up the process of decomposition, which is progressing extremely slow in Professor Leiter. And I contribute that to the fact that all of the bacteria and gut flora has been killed. Again, maybe it was a result of the seizures. So between the eyes, the look of horror upon his face, the seizure, the damage to the internal organs, and the lack of bacteria in the gut, we have several competing philosophies about what could have caused the heart attack. Could have been sudden and massive fright, which is the first thing one would think when looking at his face, and perhaps led to the convulsive seizures and therefore the heart attack. However, that doesn't really explain the condition of the internal organs, most of which were protected by the rib cage. So the muscular seizures would have had to do considerably more damage. It would have had to have been enough to break the rib cage, which is not broken. And it also doesn't explain the absence of the gut flora. And he keeps going on.
Dr. Wheatcroft, wonderful explanation. And I agree wholly that while there are lots of other circumstances, it would seem as though the heart attack would have been the deciding factor in death in this case. I was just wondering, in your experience, have you ever come across the situation of the gut flora having died? What kind of things could cause that?
Looking back on my years as an assistant coroner with some esteem in Boston, I can't say that I've ever seen this or read about it in other publications. One could surmise that particular poisons could have caused it. No indication of any poisons in this body. Starvation to the point that the gut flora has nothing to subsist on could have caused it. And he's looking up, kind of his eyes rolling back, like you give him something to think about, and he's like thinking of things and checking them off as nope, couldn't have been it. But obviously, Professor Leiter was not starving. Contents of the stomach were inventoried. No. I'm sorry, I really don't have an explanation in this case. So sometimes when something can't be explained, maybe it's because it had nothing to do with other things, or is beyond our scientific methods of determining. What we do know is convulsive seizures, that we have this problem with the eyes, the look of horror on his face, and I can tell you it's unknowable by me at this point.
Thank you. Would you mind if we took a moment to, examine the outer of the body? Just our own. We're not going to, obviously go into the body cavity, but just a precursory examination of his exterior.
Well, as far as the body and examining it, and he's looking at you and then the sink, and he's like, the washing, and as he does this, the light over the body flickers. And then you hear from the front office where there was a small transistor radio sitting on his desk, which was not on. You hear a quick blast of static. And as you look up to that, the hallway lights, which were just dangling bare bulbs, they flicker too, but not all at once, almost like in a sequence.
Cascading.
Just a quick flicker and then everything's same. And he looks over his shoulder and you could see him visibly shudder. We really need to get this investigation wrapped up and put to bed so that he just won't let me. He won't. Fallon insists we keep control of the body until this is all taken care of, and I'd really like to get this body out of here. It's unsettling, is what it is.
I can imagine. So if you'll just give us a quick moment to examine the outside of the body, we will be on our way to continue working on this mystery for you, sir.
Okay, so how are you planning on doing this in such a way that he doesn't insist that you wash your hands?
I was going to try to direct Jackson or get Jackson to do it.
Okay.
Kind of like, how like when there's like a doctor teaching a student how to do something, they just kind of stand over their shoulder and they're like, no, grab this. Don't do that. I'm going to try very hard. So, Jackson, can you maybe check inside the nose and the mouth and just, look for anything out of the ordinary?
Sure.
So the doctor comes over with a couple of gloves and he offers them to you to place on your head.
I'll put them on.
We are currently in the basement of the teaching hospital on the grounds of Miskatonic University, where our investigators, Alice Green and Jackson Morris, have been going over the autopsy results and viewing the body with Dr. John Wheatcroft. The body of Charles Leiter is laid out before you. And with a little bit of misgivings from him and a promise from you not to touch the body with your unwashed hands, he has allowed you to step forward and make some investigation of the body on your own. As you move forward, Jackson, you are now wearing surgical gloves, and Ms. Green has indicated to you that she would like you to kind of peer into the mouth and maybe up the nose. As you get closer to the body, and Ms. Green, you've had to get closer too to be able to direct his activities. As you get closer, just the overwhelming oddity of this body, the face frozen in horror, the grayish white, colorless eyeballs, has an effect on you. Get a sanity roll from both of you, please. No.
I do not care.
No, neither one of you care. I guess coming off of your recent adventures in Blackwater Creek and some of the stuff you saw there, this is like a
Meh.
Okay. So, tell me what you do.
So he's still looking into the mouth. Does he see anything?
I'm taking the little picks and prods that I'm finding around the tools of the mortuary people. Would it be mortuary or would it be
Corners,
Coroner.
but sure.
taking the little picks and tools and opening the mouth and digging around in the nose and giving him rabbit ears and turning over his hands and such?
Okay. So as you're doing this, you look in the mouth and you see nothing. And Dr. Wheatcroft is like flipping through his autopsy notes. And as you look in the mouth, he looks at no obstructions of foreign objects found within the mouth. And he's reading what he, kind of like, I did that. So you look up the nose and he goes down a few lines. Nostril and sinus cavities appeared free and unobstructed. As you turn over the hands, you see some of the discoloration that he was talking about as the muscles essentially bruised the hell out of themselves from the seizure. He starts spouting off some other medical terms for what those are called, because I don't know.
Contusion.
Contusions. I don't know if it's right in this instance, but it's right in this game. There's contusions found throughout the body, noticeably in larger muscle and less so in smaller muscle groupings, like in the hands. He's reading this stuff.
So I'm going to pay attention a little bit to what's under the fingernails and see if the fingernails are clean.
Yeah, the fingernails appear to be clean.
Um,
And as he's flipping, he's like, so you've obviously noticed the eyes. I just noticed my notes here. I can't believe it. Well, the discoloration of the eyes is alarming, but and he hands you ophthalmoscope.
An eye banger.
Right. And he says, peer into the eye. And so you get over it and you look in, and he says, you will notice wrinkling and scarring of the tissue at the backside of the eyes, consistent with severe thermal damage. It looks as if heat caused the damage to the backside of the optic nerves and cavity.
But there's no noticeable heat damage to the rest of the body?
No, but then he said, heat. Your question earlier this way was quite odd. Heat might account for the absence of the gut flora. And he like shuffles off and like starts grabbing a medical book off his thing and starts flipping through it. Like, I wonder if he could have caused that. Like he had put one thing together with the other. So,
is there any other portions of the body you want to look at?
So was this a traditional autopsy where they cut him open and examine the organs?
yeah, it's got the wide incision.
Are the organs nearby?
The organs were examined and small cross sections were taken for microscopic purposes in the examination. I still have those. Normally they will be destroyed, burned after all this is done, but the majority of the organs are placed reverently and with due decorum back inside the body cavity before sewing them, so the loved ones can compare the entire body. It's not like you can do anything with the organs of somebody who has recently died.
Well, I wasn't talking about making prophylactics out of them. I was just curious if possibly they appeared as though they had also had thermal damage, seeing as how the back of the eye and the gut flora you're thinking now may...
Well, let's take a look. He flips through it and nose showed some damage that may have been caused by the convulsive nature of the situation. And he goes over and he flips a little light on, and one of those like X-ray machine things comes on, and he starts flipping some things up there. He says, "We've got some pictures of it, of things," and so he's looking at those. And so, But I've never seen or have heard of heat being generated within the body where there were no outward signs of heat on the body. It's possible. I'll have to do some more research, but like with the gut flux, this is well done, Mr. Morris. I'll have to investigate this as well. Perhaps heat could be the contributing factor to some of the damage we see on the internal organs as well. It will require more research. Give me some time. And he just starts absent-minded professor. It's almost like he's forgotten you're here because he's so intrigued by this theory. Pulling down papers, grabbing his microscope, bringing back out the slides, and flipping the autopsy folder back open and flipping through things. So. Is that quite well? Was there anything else?
No.
Just keep us updated and don't rule anything out before you have any evidence, because we've seen some weird stuff going on in these parts in the past month.
Yeah, weird stuff. We know stalking superstitions, and he's flipping, and as you guys are walking out about to leave, he stops and he turns back around and says, again, let me reiterate that it's best if this investigation comes to a hasty conclusion, so this body can be removed from here. It's unseemly, and well, it's just a little strange, but and then he lowers his voice almost conspiratorially. I'm sure I could rely upon the two of you to not disclose the condition of the body or reveal anything to outside sources other than the massive and sudden heart failure indications.
Sure.
Yes, sir. I believe we are agreeing with you in the massive and sudden heart being the actual cause of death. The other strange occurrences seem to be more situational than causality for his death.
Yes, well, Fallon wants none of that to get out, and I just want the body to get out. So if you would get out and do your investigation, perhaps we'll all get what we want.
We'll do our part. You make sure to do yours.
Yeah, he quit listening to you about halfway through that, and he's back in his papers because he was intrigued by the theory.
Come on, Jackson, let's go.
All right.
So we will exit the hospital. It was very strange. I've never seen someone's face contort quite like that.
Well, I have, but we got some wild women out west.
Jackson. So where to now? Would you like
I
to
needed a playful slap on the face. Yeah.
Would you like to go check out his office? They said
That was the lineup we were given, right? The hospital and then the office.
yeah, the dean said it might make more sense to see the body before the office so that we would have the context before seeing the scene.
All right, let's go.
So we'll head over to his office with this key to his office.
Okay. It's like a trek back across campus, right? In fact, the building you were at with Dean Fallon closer to the building with Leiter's office than the hospital, but off to the hospital and off back. So it's trekking back across the big quad. School's in session. Probably catch it during break between classes, and there's co-eds moving this way and that way, and make listen rolls for.
Listen. But, I want to spend 1 luck point to make my 21 a success. That was too close.
Okay.
I'm going to keep my 9 luck points.
So as you're moving across, as classes are getting out, and there's the hustle and bustle of co-eds moving from one building to another, going on for a study period or wrapping it up for the day. who knows what their schedules look like, but there's a lot going on. And throughout your long walk across the common area, then you overhear bits and pieces of conversation. Oh, Susie, did you hear about Professor Leiter? I sure did. They said that he had died from a heart attack. But that's not what I heard. What did you hear? I heard that there was something else and strange afoot. That somebody who saw his body said there's no way it was a heart attack. He died of something else completely. And it's all a mystery. You can go on a little bit further and you can hear other conversations getting more and more distorted. Whereas nobody hitting close to the truth, but probably several things hitting around the truth. Like maybe the condition of his face and his body have gotten out through whispered and rumored channels, and so the students are, making something of that. Who dies of a heart attack? Has their face frozen in horror. Because Miskatonic University is not without its mysterious comings and goings and happenings. It's probably over the 2 weeks, there's been a swell of rumors about what happened to Professor Rhodes and how he's now in the insane asylum. What happened and what caused all that. And what about those 3 students that worked with him on that dig and one who's never come back from it.
Right.
So you hear the rumor mill of rumoring.
A rumoring.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get to the building with Professor Leiter's office in it. It's upstairs. You make your way up there. There's no reception area. It's a standard, college building. There's like classroom areas in the bottom floors and faculty offices on the top floor. And you get to his office and the door is locked, and there's probably been a piece of tape stretched across it that says "Do not enter."
Okay, well, I'll take out the key and unlock the door.
Okay.
Enter. Ducking up underneath the tape to go through.
Cool. So this is a relatively small office, but there are 2 desks in here, some filing cabinets, and a fireplace. 1920s. This building probably don't have central heat and air, so there's a fireplace in there. On one wall is a full-length mirror, but it is shattered. There are some shards of it still in there. It's not like it all crumbled to the floor. It's more like held in place, but it's got this spider web of a shattering on it. As I said, 2 desks, one considerably smaller than the other. So what would you like to do?
So this larger desk would have been Professor Leiter's. The smaller desk would have probably been Miss Court's, his assistant's desk. So let's start with Professor Leiter's desk and look and see what we can find inside of his desk.
Okay. Inside the desk?
Well, let's start on top of the desk and then work our way in.
So there is kind of a shuffle of papers on the desk, like some of it student assignments that were being graded. There is a file folder on the desk, and there is no label on the folder, but it looks well used, like slightly dingy around the edges where you like grab it out of a filing cabinet or whatever. And there's nothing in the folder. So not a lot to go on top of the desk.
The file folder can, you know how like when you write on paper, it will leave an impression on the paper beneath it. Is there any of those kind of like stray impressionary marks on the file folder where he may have been writing in the folder that we might be able to etch and see?
Give me a spot hidden.
Success. 37.
Okay. Yeah. So on the front flap of the folder, right? You notice that there were like little clasps, and maybe there's even a little piece of paper still attached to the clasp, like it had been ripped out of it. And on the folder itself, you can just barely make out indentations of some writing.
Okay. Can I try to do that thing, where you put paper down and like brush over it to kind of bring up the thing? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that.
Yes.
I don't know what that would be scale check wise.
Maybe a luck roll. Because it would be one thing to actually take the pencil and rub it on the file folder itself. And then indentations from writing in that file folder would show up. To place another piece of paper on it and try to do that and get a good impression coming forth, yeah, it just
They failed.
doesn't say it. Now, you cannot push luck rolls.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a nice shot at that.
You could take the direct approach, but it would substantially, if this is a piece of evidence, you would substantially change it by actually rubbing your pencil on the folder itself. But that is how you like to see what
Can I maybe hold up the folder to a light to see if maybe, like how light will distort in those little dips, if I can maybe make out some of it without scratching over the top of it?
Yes. Give me another spot hidden roll, but do this one with bonus dice.
No, I failed.
Okay, so you can see the little markings, indentations a little bit better, but you really can't make out what the writing is.
Can I try it? I'm assuming she said that she...
Yeah, I was about to ask you anyways.
I got a success.
So it looks like a series of numbers, positive and negatives, as if somebody was keeping kind of a ledger.
Can I grab a pencil and jot down what the numbers were?
Yeah, sure. The ones that you could make out. There are sometimes relatively large figures, like several hundred or up to maybe 1,000, 1,214 or whatever. All of them have a decimal point and 2 zeros after them.
So like,
All of the numbers have decimal points, but there's never anything beyond the decimal point except 2 zeros. And then in a column shifted over just a little bit, then you will see another number and then like a total. So you're able to figure out that it is showing a series of positive numbers like
debits.
Inputs, credits, and then debits and withdrawal from the total of those numbers. And they all have the decimal point and 2 numbers after it. And some of the positive column, the credit column, numbers are large. They're often followed by a string of not quite as large numbers in the debit column, but usually within 2 or 3 of those numbers, it is debited out what the credit was. So, for instance, if there was a thing there that said 1,500.00, then the 2 entries underneath that one might go, in the shifted over to a debit column, 900, 600.
Okay.
Okay. In the scattered papers, what do we find in those
Student.
papers? Just okay.
Are there any that are separate from the others? Are they all sort of in one big pile, or is there one or two that looks like maybe they were separated out for some sort of reason? Or anything else significant about the student papers?
Trying to figure out who failed.
No,
I was kidding.
trying to figure out if somebody may have known him a little better than the others.
Yeah, no, they all just like boring essays on the effect of drought in the summer of 1702 upon colonial settlements in the New England.
Right.
Love that.
Oh, okay.
Let's open up the desk.
Yeah, let's open the drawers.
Okay, so in the desk, one of the large drawers, there is a file system, right? And there's a couple places where there are noticeable gaps. You know, it looked like this was a full file drawer, but has there been a file removed?
Like how
right
there's like
there?
the tabs and they go in the descending order, but there's like a tab missing almost.
How are they ordered?
Alphabetically.
Is there a noticeable point that we could see, like, okay, it's missing C through F?
Okay, so first thing you notice is, well, something a library useful.
Yay.
I'm not going to give you this shit.
Library use, that's my jam. Are you kidding me? I have a 70 and I made a 72.
Well, I was the one actually examining it.
Yeah,
so
like
I'm
a
going to
library.
check on my library use, which is considerably lower than yours, and I'm going to fail as well.
Bro. Some bullshit.
So
Spend 2
let's-
points of luck.
I'm going to use the 2 luck points. I was about to anyways because I
Okay,
want
so
to.
it's alphabetical in nature. You notice looking through these these are not student files. They appear to be more administrative in nature. Like maybe it's course syllabuses for different things, and different projects that he is working on. And you notice that the tab for the letter W and anything that was in that tab.
Hey, girl, it's just like a list of presidents. They ain't got no W yet.
Okay. So the tab for W and all the files that would have been in it is missing.
W as in which?
Or, I mean, possibly. Could have been Wheatcraft, whatever his name is. But we won't know till we find some other things moving towards that direction. Okay, will we look through all the drawers in this desk?
Okay. Sure. What else?
I'd like to look on the smaller desk.
Okay. The smaller desk has a little nameplate on it. It says Amelia Court. It is very tidy. There's a little inbox and a little outbox. In the center of the desk, there's a little ledger, and if you open it up, it has itemized page by page listing of the documents that were part of the Hop House collection that came to him. And as you trace it down, you notice that there's a listing at the bottom that says which trial papers, comma, and then some other notations about it. Things like, old paper, stitched together, leather wrap,
Yeah.
a quick description.
Yeah.
But nothing about the content. It's just the thing itself.
Okay.
While she's moving to the new desk, I'm going to be on the old desk looking for buttons and levers and things that might indicate
Cool. Give me a spot hidden check.
success.
So as you look up under trying to find, a button or lever or whatever, you don't find anything. But you notice on the floor, almost up against the wall, a small, flat, round topic.
I'm going to bend down and reach under and grab it.
Okay. You have found a $10 casino chip for a casino in Atlantic City.
What do you got over there, Jackson?
It's a casino chip, $10, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
I wonder if Mr. Leiter was a gambler. That would explain the ledger of funds, wins and losses.
That would, actually.
A well-used file that he would have kept with him when he went gambling and having a record of his wins and losses.
Is there anything peculiar about this chip? Any reason why it would be in a vial instead of in a pocket?
Looking at a file.
It was on the floor.
Oh.
It was the
Oh,
floor.
you said it was on the vial.
I'm sorry, up against the wall.
Up against the wall.
Yeah, I would love to dissect that. What did I say that sounded like vile? But,
I was probably
Just-
thinking about Cowboy Bebop and
Yeah.
never mind.
yeah, no, just a chip on the floor, like it had fallen off the desk, or somebody was grabbing things up in a hurry and fallen and rolled back to the wall. But yeah, it's a $10 chip.
Okay. We'll move back to the small desk.
Yeah. Anything in the drawers of the desk?
Personal belongings, stationery type stuff. She's got like her pencils all lined up and all perfectly sharpened to the
Cute.
same degree. And a pencil sharpener, like the little handheld ones, sitting right next to it, perfectly perpendicular, no, not perpendicular, parallel to the edge of the pencil line. And then over here, she's got two pens that are perpendicular to that, but equally spaced apart and equally spaced from the edge of the drawer. This is a very organized and meticulous test, but content-wise, there's nothing in there. You do know that Dean Fallon told you that they had taken all of the Hobhouse collection of documents back, and that's when they discovered that the witch trial papers were missing.
Right.
So it's not unusual
To
to
find.
not find that work here.
Okay. You said there was like a file cabinet, or was that part of the desk?
No, there's a separate file cabinet, fireplace, and a mirror.
I'd like to go look in the filing cabinet.
Okay. This one does seem to be organized by, at least the first drawer, organized by student names alphabetically. And nothing jumps out as immense. It's like, okay, Aaron, Allen, Appleby,
Yeah.
Banks, Bailey, blah, blah, and then because you can't stand it,
Move Bailey in
you
front
took
of Banks.
Bailey and swapped it in front of Banks because that was out of order.
Yeah. Good catch. Okay.
The second drawer appears to be overflow older files, like as students matriculate out, then he moves it down.
Yeah.
And you're certain it's not every student that's in the university. It's probably just students in his class, or maybe students for whom he serves as the advisor for, or whatever.
Right.
But flipping through a couple of them, it looks like just general student records, nothing.
Okay.
I'm gonna walk over to the fireplace. Gonna poke around a little bit.
Make me a walk roll.
There's
It'd be under the Deppings, John.
There's no walk skill.
Navigate. So, in attempting to get to the fireplace, you find yourself staring at Amelia Court's desk again. How did...
You know, if I had made that, I would come up with a good reason why you'd let me check that off. I was half drunk, putting two legs in front of the other was just tough, and I managed to make it.
Half drunk, which makes one wonder, is Jackson Morris carrying his flask with him?
Not tonight, no.
He left it at home.
Which, once the keeper had that thought, then he wondered, certainly Jackson Morris is not walking around the campus with his shotgun.
No.
Is he carrying anything else with him?
I don't think here he is, no.
Okay, and Ms. Green, I'm certain Jackson wouldn't let you left the house with your 22 slung,
No.
jauntily over your shoulder, but are you carrying anything?
A side satchel bag with my notebook and, just the basic things people carry, in a purse. Nothing, probably my switchblade that stays in my purse, but not, purse.
Okay. So, Jackson, you make it over to the fireplace. There are ashes, dead coals, chunks of wood that didn't burn all the way through before the fire went out. Make me a spot hidden.
I used 2 luck on that.
Okay. So as you're looking in the fireplace, you grab the fire poker and you shift some of the ashes around and you see the edges and pieces of papers that weren't fully burned. Some of them look like they could have been file folders. Some of them look like they were just regular sheets of paper. But it's all very small, burnt pieces of them. Maybe the last corner that didn't burn away.
Probably not worth to my summarization. Probably not worth trying to pick out and piece together at this point.
No, I mean you can see where here's a little corner of a piece of paper, but you can see in the ashes the outline of the rest of that paper just burnt. So no, what you see is a mismatch of several different pieces of paper. You could try to put them all together, but you'd never make anything other than a collage. Most of the paper been burned. In fact, none of the pieces you see have any writing on them, they're the bottom edges of the paper. Somebody took a sheet of paper, holding it by the bottom, and so you had a stack of 15 papers and throws them into the fire, and it's just that bottom edge that didn't get fully consumed by the fire. But you could tell somebody burned some papers in here. You believe you can identify at least one of the pieces you see as being a file folder as well.
Okay, there's the file folder over here. Not much of it left, but I think somebody didn't want those witch trial papers to get out and about.
I doubt they would have burned the actual witch trial papers, but maybe it was his notes on it.
Sure.
He wouldn't, he didn't file away the rest of the documents in his own personal filing cabinet, so the file that's missing from his filing cabinet is unlikely to be the actual witch trial papers. It would make sense it's more of his personal notes on it. But we don't know. We don't know what was in the file or anything like that. I'd like to go over to the mirror. And...
You look great.
Thanks.
A little broke up.
Thanks. So
There were lines on the mirror and lines on your face. You could have to pretend not to notice that you're caught up in the race. The mirror is shattered, but most of it is still in place.
So what I want to know is, like, if you hit a mirror or glass, there's like really dense spider webs, and then they get more spread out and larger. But if it was like the whole mirror being shook, or like an earthquake, or something else, then they would be more evenly dispersed. It wouldn't be like an impact point. Is there an impact point on the mirror, or is it more like a hodgepodge of? Do you understand what I'm asking?
I do know what you're asking, and you're doing such a good job of asking. I decide if I want to roll for it, but I don't think that I do. It would probably be something like natural worlds, or if I was being nice to you, a no roll or whatever. But to answer your question, there doesn't appear to be an impact point from which the shatter then spider webs out. It's just like
the entire mirror is shattered.
Right. You said earthquake or something. Just like the whole thing.
Right.
That's a technical term, by the way. Just went.
Okay. And nothing else in the room looks ramshackle, correct?
But this mirror seems a little out of place, right? This is an older building, older furnishings in here, but this mirror is more modern for 1920s.
Right.
It's full length. Give me a spot hidden or investigate on the mirror, whichever one you prefer.
Is there an investigate?
Isn't there?
No. There's intimidate.
Intimidate the mirror.
Tell me what you know.
See if you can get a check mark on that.
My apologies to you and all the world out there, especially the folks out there that are laughing at me because I'm too tight 5e shit. So give me a spot hidden.
A success, 42. Just barely.
As you look at it, towards the center of the mirror, maybe a little bit above your eye level, the glass and steel backing that make up the mirror appears to have melted in one spot. Just kind of like intense heat had melted. Maybe that caused the type of breakage that you saw.
Right, intense heat with break glass.
And not do it from a center impact out.
Right. Intense, like hot to cold can cause glass to shatter. Can I don't want to like disturb. Is the mirror like fully mounted, or is it like?
No, it's on a little stand with like a little connection at one point in the middle, so you could tilt it a little bit, or it's pretty much upright, like somebody used to stand there and peruse their countenance. Maybe somebody who's been described as a charmer and socialite of a professor. A little bit of an ego check before he walked out, making sure everything was just in place. It was his affectation in this office. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to look at?
Yeah. What are you doing at this time?
I guess not noticing that there was heat damage.
So you're pointing out the
of course.
Okay. I'm going to examine the ceiling and the floor.
Like above and below the mirror, or
just all over the room.
So on the floor, nothing substantial. Maybe in the dust you can make out where his body must have been lying.
Well, over that spot, I'd like to look at the ceiling and really concentrate on whether or not it looks like the paint is melted or
Bubbling.
Doesn't appear to be any damage to anything else in the room besides the mirror.
Was the place where we assume his body was close to the mirror?
Yeah, so it was like near his desk, but the mirror was also kind of near his desk.
Would it have been in view of the mirror?
Yeah, like so he could have been sitting at his desk and then stood up and turned and checked himself in the mirror.
And it's like right
And then, walked out of the office or whatever. So
Okay.
it's arranged in such a way that the mirror is obviously on his side of this small office. It is the professor's. So I think Dean Fallon only told you that the body had been discovered by Amelia Court, but I don't think he told you anything about the positioning in the room. So it's conjecture on y'all's part. Like, is there a little less dust right there? You're just not sure.
Okay.
You'd probably have to talk to Amelia or.
Yeah, so we really do need to find Amelia Court and talk to her about what she found.
is all the dust pretty uniform? Looks like the same sort of particles.
Yeah, right.
No special kind of dirt anywhere.
Around the fireplace, I'm sure there's some little soot residue in a semicircle around the fireplace, but exactly what you'd expect to see around a fireplace, but no other kinds of dust. So,
can I use my track to see if there are notable footprints going to anywhere where there's nothing actually?
So this office was, well in use. So
Probably not.
I don't think you'd get anything out of it. It's not like there's 3 months of undisturbed dust and then somebody walked through here. There's just some dust everywhere, but this has been used all the way up to yesterday. So
Did you look up? Is it like a fireplace that has like a chimney spout, or like one of those like metal pipe, like old timey like stove ones? Like,
Did not look up the chimney.
It's a standard fireplace. There's probably one just like it on the floor below.
Just connected
and it's all connected to these chimneys. And there's probably several others throughout this. It's different offices have to be heated. So as you guys are standing there looking around at the floor, and you turn, and as you're looking up and checking out the ceiling, as your eyes come back down, they pass back to the mirror. And for a brief second, in between the cracks of the mirror, you see this shadowy form, almost smoky looking, pass the mirror.
but within the confines of the mirror.
Yeah. In the mirror, you see a shadowy form. So in the mirror, it looks like the shadowy form was behind you.
I'm gonna turn around and look.
We'll both turn around and look behind us.
And you're carrying what kind of weapons?
None,
No.
There's nothing back
not unless smokes are
there. But
vulnerable.
as
to
you
switchblade.
turn back to the mirror, it's not there anymore. But in that instant, when you realize that it's not there, the light in the room just goes for a second, and it comes back on.
Would an occult or Cthulhu mythos do anything for me here?
Roll an occult roll.
He's trying to edge up
Big
that
fail.
control. That's yeah.
Yeah, do you have the right character sheet open there, bro?
I do. I just changed my ass.
I'll change it back.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, so you guys stop and look at each other with that. Did you see that?
I saw that. Did you see that?
I saw that. And I saw the light.
Which is the same thing that happened down hospital. But I didn't see any aberrations in the hospital, did you?
No. I reckon we might be being followed.
Oh.
When we get on out of here and go find Miss Court,
Yeah.
Professor Court.
Miss Cole. She's just an assistant, like a grad student. Yeah. So we'll exit the office and lock it back up. And
So as you leave the office and you lock it back up, you hear and see the flicker of the light one more time. And maybe it lasts just a little longer than it goes off. But you notice that the lights in this hallway aren't doing that. It's just that one light in the room dangling over the desk.
over his desk.
And you guys are off to hunt down the graduate assistant, Amelia Court,
Yes.
the last person or the person to discover the body.
Correct.
And that's what we'll pick up next week.
All right.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining us as we get this investigation into the Crimson Letters started again. That's a scenario you can find in the Call of Cthulhu Keeper's rulebook. Comes with the rules. We are going to work our way through this. So we're just starting to get in the adventure. The clues are coming hard and fast. Let's see how our investigators do. Hey, if you like what you're seeing, give us a like or a follow or a subscribe. Write some comments down below. Tell us how you think we're doing. We'd love to hear them. And we'll do anything we can to make this better. So give us some advice. I'm Steve, and appreciate you being here.
I'm Emily, and I run the Twitter, so check us out on Twitter. Give us a like and follow.
I'm Jackson.
John. The editor extraordinaire.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.